Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro 300 Pool Blue version. This watch is available from christopherward.com for €1,165. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the specifications of the piece. So the watch comes in a watch box which is protected by this black cardboard outer sleeve. You remove the sleeve, and this is the watch box. As you can see, on the top of the sleeve of the watch box, we have the twin flag emblem embossed. So the twin flag refers to the English flag and the Swiss flag because Christopher Ward are an English watch brand and their watches are Swiss made. Now, interesting choice of materials because as you can see, the drawer which you pull out of the sleeve is made from solid bamboo, and this makes a refreshing change from the default option of a plastic or cardboard watch box. Good design because it has two magnets which are inlaid into the solid bamboo drawer, and they attract two magnets inside the sleeve, and the sleeve is fully lined with a black velour fabric, so it's got a very smooth action to it. The bamboo drawer slides in and out of the sleeve very smoothly, and it closes together with a nice positive attraction due to the two magnets attracting each other. So very nicely executed and also sustainable because of course bamboo is environmentally friendly, and it's good that they didn't just use a plastic or cardboard watch box. Bearing in mind this is a mid-tier price point piece at €1,165. So inside the tray or drawer, the watch sits on this vinyl upholstered piece of plastic, as you can see, and that's a nice snug fit in the cutout in the base. So it does a good job of protecting the watch in shipping from any damage, and I like it. So I think the presentation is very good, very aesthetically pleasing and well finished. With regards to the items you get with the watch, it also comes with this envelope, and it has the twin flag emblem and Christopher Ward on the front, and on the reverse it says the not so painful bits because this envelope contains the purchase receipt. You also get this booklet which you fold out, and it thanks you for your purchase, and it also details the 5-year movement guarantee. So this piece, the C60 Trident Pro 300, is covered by a 60/60 guarantee, and what that means is the watch is covered by a 60-day return policy. So after you purchase the watch, if for any reason you're unhappy with it, you can return it to Christopher Ward within 60 days from the date of purchase for a full refund or replacement. The other 60 in the 60-day 60/60 guarantee refers to 60 months of warranty on the movement, and 60 months equates to 5 years, and this is the plastic warranty card that confirms that. So good to get a 60-month or 5-year warranty on the movement at this price point. Lastly, one also gets this envelope with the twin flag emblem, and I'll show you what it contains. So inside we have 3 twin flag stickers, which, as I've detailed, refer to the English flag and the Swiss flag because it's an English brand and the watches are Swiss made. And inside we also get a twin flag branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of a piece. So good presentation, good accessories. With regards to the specifications of the piece, we have a 40mm case diameter, we have a lug-to-lug measurement of 47.5mm, a thickness of 11.6mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster-style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16.5mm at the 2-button push clasp, and as you can see, the 2-button push clasp is signed to a high standard with high-definition engraving of the twin flag emblem. Now, Christopher Ward have refined the bracelet taper used on this 40mm version of the C60 Trident Pro 300. It is also available in a 42mm in this pool blue version. This taper has been increased from 20 to 16. It's now slightly thicker at the 2-button push clasp. It's 16.5, so it's got a more slight taper from 20 down to 16.5 to better balance the 2-button push clasp. The 2-button push clasp is brushed satin finished to the top side, underside and flanks, and it's got a nice brushed satin finished bevel on the edge of it. No sharp edges, no sharp corners, and correctly proportioned. It's also a micro adjustment clasp which we'll test. Flat sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices and the silver mirror polished arrowhead handset. Good attention to detail and continuity of design, because if you look at the sweeping second hand, which is also correctly proportioned and mirror polished, the counterbalance is in the shape of a trident spear, and this is the C60 Trident Pro 300, so that fits with the design aesthetic of this being a trident. I like the detail of it having a trident spear counterbalance on the second hand. Now, with regards to this pool blue version, I really like the colour tone match of the pool blue, because the ceramic bezel inserts, the dial and also the dates wheel are all pool blue. They have the same blue tone, and they deserve credit here, because rather than take the default option of using a black date wheel with white Arabic numerals, or alternatively a white date wheel with contrasting black Arabic numerals, they've colour coded the date wheel. So the blue date wheel perfectly matches the colour tone of the ceramic bezel insert and the dial, and it really does work very well, because the legibility of the white Arabic numerals on the blue date wheel are clearly legible. The proportions of the font are very good, the alignment is correct of the Arabic numerals, they're not too far to the left or right, or not too high or too low within the framed date window. So I like the font, it's nice and fine, it looks crisp and high definition. One detail I like about the dial is the applied twin flag emblem. As you can see, when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, it catches the light. It's got a nice silver finish to it, which is brushed satin finished. So it matches the aesthetic of the metallic 3D effect of the applied indices and also the facets on the hands. They're not flat, they've actually got facets to them, so they catch the light very well. The hands are correctly proportioned. If you look at the pencil minute hand, you can see the tip of it extends all the way to the white minute ticks on the chapter ring, so it's long enough. And if you look at the arrowhead hour hand, you can see the tip of it extends to the applied indices, so the length and proportions of the handset are correct. The arrowhead tip to the trident second hand also extends all the way to the minute ticks, so they've got the proportions correct for this 40mm head of the piece. Now I'm just going to move the hands out of the way to show you the text at 6 o'clock better. And you can see just the right amount of information, because we simply have automatic and then 300 meters equals 1,000 feet. So it's not over branded with unnecessary text or specification. We simply have the twin flag emblem applied at 12, which is very aesthetically pleasing, and then automatic and 300 meters 1,000 feet at 6 o'clock. So just the right amount of information. And either side of the 6 o'clock index on the dial we have Swiss made, because the C60 Trident Pro 300 is indeed Swiss made with a Swiss made caliber. So very good dial execution. I like the symmetry of it. They made the correct decision by citing the date complication at 6 rather than the 3 o'clock default position, because it retains the symmetry of the dial. It looks very balanced, and I also really like the applied twin flag emblem. So let's test the bezel execution. 120 click unidirectional bezel, as one would expect. So this is ceramic in the pool blue colour, and the Arabic numerals are fully inlaid with superluminova. This piece uses X1BL C1 superluminova, which makes a refreshing change from using C3 or BGW9, which are the industry standards and the default options. One detail I like about the bezel is, if you look around the inner portion of it, you can see it has a fixed portion with minute ticks, and that is fixed. So the bezel itself rotates around that stainless steel brushed satin finished inner ring, and the inner ring goes in between the bezel and the sapphire crystal itself. So coin edge finish to it, and it's nice and low profile. The quality of the coin edge finishing is exceptional, and Christopher Ward deserves full credit, because it's got a nice mirror polished bevel machined to the tips of the teeth. So it's not sharp, but the coin edge bezel is grippy and tactile. It does feel very grippy. You can get good purchase with your index finger and thumb, but it is nice and low profile, which gives this piece a vintage aesthetic. And it also complements how thin it is, because it is only 11.6. even though it uses an exhibition case back and also a sapphire crystal, which provide 300 meters of hermetic seal. So let's test the 120 click unidirectional bezel. Nice light resistance to it, which is a pleasant surprise. It's not too tight, and it doesn't have medium resistance. It actually feels very light. It feels smooth and even all the way through the 360 degrees of rotation. It doesn't get tighter or looser. Nice light resistance all the way round. No lateral side-to-side play whatsoever. No back play whatsoever. So although it's a light resistance, It doesn't have any additional play, no lateral side-side play, no back play. Let's just check the alignments. Perfect. So the fully loomed triangle at 12 o'clock perfectly aligns with the double applied indices at 12 and the 60-minute tick on the dial. This is an example to other mid-tier brands of how to get bezel execution perfected. No lateral side-side play, no back play, perfect alignment, light resistance. It is the perfect bezel execution. I like the loud audible clicks. You can hear every single one of the 120 clicks. They're audible and it feels like a robust ratcheting mechanism. You can feel the resistance of the click spring engaging with 120 grooves beneath the stainless steel bezel. So it feels nice and robust. And it has a nice tight action to it despite being light in resistance. There's no play in it whatsoever. So let's test the screw down crown execution. Knurled finish to the crown, correctly proportioned. The crown guards also have a nice curved shape to them. I like the way the mirror polishing to the top of the crown guards flows into the bevels on the edge of the case, which mark the transition between the tops of the lugs and the flanks. This is one of my favourite aspects of the piece. It's the light catcher case. As the name suggests, light catcher, it catches the light. When you look at this piece, you can see the mirror polished bevels, which run the full length of the flanks, and also the undercuts, which is mirror polished. They give the flanks, which are brush satin finished, a nice low profile. It doesn't look slab sided. It doesn't have tall flanks to the case, both on the left hand flank and the crown guard side. You can see how slender the curved light catcher case flanks are. Nice large undercuts. Now the benefit of the undercuts is it reduces the meat of the 40mm head of the piece, making it lighter, but also the undercuts mean that there's no sharp edge to the undercut of the flanks, so it doesn't dig into the wrist. It's an incredibly comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. So the light catcher case is good looking. It catches the light, as the name suggests, but it's also very comfortable. That's the benefit of it having the large undercut and the slender profile to the flanks. So knurled finish to the screw down crown, and as you can see, matte bead blasted effect to the background, and then we have an embossed twin flag emblem which is mirror polished and contrasts very well. Nice chamfer which is machined to the tips of the knurled finish. So grippy and tactile, easy to get purchased with your index finger and thumb. Absolutely silky smooth. It feels very smooth. It's one of the best screw down crowns I've experienced. Really is Rolex level in terms of smoothness, or alternatively Tudor or Omega, and that is very impressive to get this kind of silky smooth screw down crown, because we're looking at a mid-tier piece, not a high-tier piece costing in excess of €10,000. €1,165, but we're getting high-tier level screw down crown execution. So the screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 300 meters, which is strong specification. There are 2 rubber O-rings, 1 rubber O-ring gasket inside the stainless steel crown, and a second rubber O-ring gasket inside the crown tube. The 2 rubber O-rings provide an effective hermetic seal to 300 meters. So silky smooth. When it's unscrewed, we're now in the manual wind position, so you can manually wind the Celita caliber SW200-1 to its maximum 38-hour power reserve. Nice medium firm resistance. You can feel the tension in the mainspring gradually building up. It feels nice and smooth to manually wind. It's one of my personal favourite calibers because I like the smooth manual winding. It feels very robust and reliable. Right, so pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set date complication. So if you look closely at the framed date window at 6 o'clock, when I rotate the crown clockwise, the date clicks over with a nice positive click. Now in terms of resistance, it does feel lighter than a Seiko NH35A, which has a very heavy indexing, a very heavy click to the quick set complication. The SW200-1 is effectively a clone of the ETA 2824-2, so it has the exact same feeling with a quick set date, nice light indexing. There's no discernible difference between the ETA 2824-2 quick set date complication and this SW200-1. They feel exactly the same. Now if you look at the double Arabic numerals, they align correctly inside the framed date window. They're not too far to the left or too far to the right, and the single Arabic numerals are perfectly central. Not too high, not too low, and not too far to the left or right. The printing of the fonts of the Arabic numerals is nice and fine. It's not too thick and blurry. It looks crisp and high definition. So legibility is good, symmetry is good, and I like the feeling of the quick set. Clicks over very nicely, nice positive clicks. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement, and if you look at the arrowhead second hand, which has the Trident counterbalance, you can see it's now stopped dead. So it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the Celita caliber SW200-1. Nice light resistance to the gearing. It has 26 joules, but you can feel there's minimal friction in the 26 joules, and the gearing meshes very well. It feels silky smooth clockwise and anti-clockwise. One thing I like about it is there's minimal back play. Now, when you rotate the crown clockwise or anti-clockwise, there is some slight play, so you do have to take up the slack, and that does take some getting used to, but once you've become accustomed to it, it's very slight back play. So there's nearly an immediate response when you rotate the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise. The minute hand immediately begins to move. So it's very good. Minimal back play, feels nice and tight and robust and reliable. So I do like the feeling of setting the time. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. You can see the arrowhead tip to the Trident second hand begins to sweep around the dial with the characteristic 4 Hz sweep, which is very smooth and very aesthetically pleasing. So let's test screwing it back down. Instant thread pickup. This is outstanding screw down crown execution. This is perfection personified. Silky smooth, perfect interface between the internal thread of the stainless steel crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. They could not improve upon the quality control, build quality, and the machining of the threads. It really is Rolex, Tudor and Omega level respectively. At this price point in the mid-tier, Christopher Ward deserves full credit. Perfect bezel execution, perfect silky smooth screw down crown execution. Right, so let's examine the bracelet in detail. Male end links, which are a good tight fit to the head of the piece. The profiling of the end links perfectly matches the curved lugs. Beautiful luster to the brushed satin finishing. Nice proportions to the lugs, which are 20mm. Nice smooth articulation of the end link in the oyster style bracelet. Doesn't have additional play, longitudinal, lateral, side to side or up and down play. Doesn't feel stiff or kink, so articulates smoothly. Very good. An example to other micro brands of how to get it correct. And the other detail I like is the use of screw pins rather than using a riveted pin. This is better. It gives a nice tight tolerance. So the interference fit of the screw pin going through the center of the male end link is very good. Very fine tolerances. Oyster style bracelet, beautiful luster to the brushed satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks. They've made the correct decision by using brushed satin finishing on the flanks rather than mirror polishing, because this gives the piece a real tool watch aesthetic, and I like the matte finishing to it rather than having mirror polishing, which would make it look more like a dress piece. So brushed satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks is very good. Now, one notable update, which I think Christopher will deserve credit for, is previously on the C60 Trident Pro 300, they used push pins in the bracelet, but they upgraded the push pins to screw pins, as you can see, and the screw pins are better. They make resizing the bracelet easy, but they also improve the quality in terms of the flow of the bracelet. Nice tight tolerances. It doesn't rattle, it doesn't feel sloppy. We don't have additional longitudinal, lateral, side to side or up and down play. Every single one of the screw pin links is a nice tight interference fit. Doesn't pull arm hairs. The benefit is no sharp edges to the top edge or the lower edge of the flanks. They've been deburred and chamfered very well. Doesn't have any stiff links. Articulates very smoothly and beautiful luster to it. Let's check the other side for continuity. Again, the male end links are a nice profiled fit to the lugs, good tight fit. Nice articulation of the screw pin going through the centre of the male end links. Articulates smoothly, doesn't feel stiff or kink. No additional play, lateral, side to side, up and down play, longitudinal play. It's tight in every direction, so the tolerances are good. Bracelet doesn't rattle, doesn't have too much play. No sharp edges to the top edge, underside or flanks. And doesn't pull arm hair. Articulates smoothly without being too stiff and kinking. So the use of screw pins are a beneficial update rather than the push pins they used to use in the C60 Trident Pro 300. It is a notable upgrade. Christopher Ward deserves credit for that refinement. Now, with regards to the clasp, it's engraved to good standard with the twin flag emblem. Longitudinal brushed satin finishing to the top side, underside and flanks, as you can see. Nice large bevels, which are also brushed satin finished to a good standard. Doesn't have sharp corners. The four corners have been deburred very well. The top edge and the lower edge don't have any sharp edges, so the quality of the finishing is good. Quality control is good. Two button push triggers have nice firm resistance. They're correctly proportioned in the flanks. Opens nice and smoothly. So The interior is solid milled 316L grade stainless steel, as one would expect. The right hand portion of the milled clasp is engraved to a high definition standard with Christopher Ward. Now let's just check the hinge pins. Left hand hinge pin, nice and tight. Articulates smoothly, doesn't feel too stiff or kink, but doesn't have additional lateral, longitudinal, side to side or up and down play. It's well executed, nice fine tolerance. Let's check the centre hinge pin. Again, articulates smoothly, doesn't have additional play. Lastly, let's check the right hand hinge pin. Articulates smoothly, doesn't have additional play. This is an example to other mid-tier brands of how to get solid milled clasp execution correct. Works very well, no sharp edges to the top side, underside or flanks, and the beautiful luster to the brush satin finishing is done very well. Now, my favourite aspect of it is it's a micro adjustment clasp, as you can see, so it has a ratcheting mechanism. So you can engage your index finger or thumbnail into the trigger. So you press it in, nice firm spring-loaded action that deploys it, and as you can see, we have got a full link. Now, in the absence of half links in the oyster style bracelet, sometimes it can be difficult for collectors to get a correct fit, because with an oyster style bracelet, if you do not have half links either side of the clasp, adding or subtracting one full oyster style link doesn't sometimes give the correct fit. It feels slightly too tight or slightly too loose. But what we've got here is a ratcheting micro adjustment clasp with on the fly adjustment. The benefit is we have a full link of adjustment, you can see. And it works very well because the tolerances are good. It doesn't accidentally deploy when on wrist. And you really have to press in the trigger with your thumbnail or index finger firmly in order to get it to open and close, as you can see. Now it feels nice and smooth. When you've got the trigger depressed, you can slide it in and pull it out very smoothly. We've got one full link, and it works very well because there's plenty of adjustment to get the perfect fit. One full link of adjustment, as you can see. Very good. And it doesn't rattle. The build quality control and tolerances are all very good. So this is one of the better micro adjustment class I've experienced. I actually really like it. The other thing I like about it is, if you look at the profile of it, it's slender. It's not too thick and bulky. Often with clasps with ratcheting mechanisms or glide lock style clasps, they are very thick, they are very bulky, and they sit proud on the wrist. And it's noticeable, even with a correctly proportioned bracelet from 20 down to 16.5, the clasp is too thick. This is actually very low profile, and it still has one full link of adjustment, and the micro adjustment works very smoothly, as you can see. Plenty of adjustment. I really like the firm action of the trigger. You've really got to press it in hard to get it to release, and so there's no danger of you accidentally releasing it when on wrist. You've really got to push your thumbnail or index fingernail into it. Very smooth, articulates very well, build quality is good. Right, so let's look at the screw down exhibition case back. So the screw down exhibition case back is glazed with mineral crystal, and it provides an effective hermetic seal to 300 meters. It does a very good job of displaying the movement used, which is the Celita caliber SW200-1. Now, it is an undecorated movement. We don't have any pelage finishing, blued screws, and we don't have any milled stripes, such as Cotes du Genève. But on a positive note, Christopher Ward have signed the rotor, and they have decorated it with Christopher Ward and also the Collie McCone finish. Now, the Collie McCone finish is the twin flag emblem repeated over and over again. So they call the repetitive twin flag emblem the Collie McCone finish, and it does catch the light. It's very aesthetically pleasing, and again, good continuity of design, because in the Collie McCone finish we have the twin flag emblem, which is also on the crown, also on the clasp, also on the dial. So the twin flag emblem is throughout the piece, and of course the Christopher Ward full brand emblem logo engraved. So nicely finished Collie McCone rotor, and it's good they just didn't use a sterile rotor or the standard Celita SW200-1 rotor. It does add some interest to the otherwise sterile, undecorated movement. Now, the stainless steel portion of it is very well finished. Concentric CNC lathe tool machining to the centre section, and the circumference is mirror polished. The milled slots are aesthetically pleasing, but they're also deburred very well. No sharp edges whatsoever to the milled slots. The profile of it is nice and flat rather than being a bubble back case back. Bear in mind, this isn't a quartz powered piece or a manual wind piece. We're looking at an automatic with a rotor, and therefore it needs to have adequate clearance between the exhibition case back and the rotor. But the centre section is very flat rather than being deep and bubble back, and it means it's very comfortable and flat against the wrist. Nice snug fit to the light catcher case, but the benefit is this is only 11.6mm thick, which is exceptional for a 300 metre water resistant piece and powered by the SW200-1. Often they will be 13mm. 11.6 is very good, because using an exhibition case back rather than a solid stainless steel case back does add some thickness, but it's very flat. So low profile, very aesthetically pleasing, finished to perfection, and very smooth and comfortable against the wrist. Now, with regards to the end links, they're a nice tight fit to the head of the piece, but the benefit is they use quick release spring bars rather than standard spring bars, and that negates the need for using a spring bar tool to remove the bracelet if you want to fit a strap. Now look closely at the finishing to the levers. These are some of the best finished and best executed quick release spring bars I've seen, because they've got nice flats milled onto them, rather than being round with slotted flathead screws, which can sometimes be sharp and scratchy. If you look at the levers to the quick releases, you can see they're mirror polished, nice flats on them, so they're not going to rub against the wrist and scratch as per quick release spring bars that have flathead screws, which are very sharp. These are nice and smooth, they've been deburred very well, and the quality is good. The end links are very well made. The quality control builds quality, tolerances and finishing is exceptional at this price point. Good quality male end links, good quality quick release levers to the spring bars. So it really is an example to other mid-tier brands of how to get quick release spring bars correct. Right, so I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits my 8-inch wrist. Now, I have not sized the bracelet, and I'm pleased to report I can easily slide an index finger between the bracelet and clasp and my wrist at all times. Now bear in mind, this is on the minimum micro adjustment. We have one full link of micro adjustment, but I've actually moved it up to its tightest fit, the minimum. And even on its minimum setting, it easily fits my 8-inch wrist. This will fit up to an 8.5-inch wrist on the minimum, and needless to say, on the maximum, it would even fit up to a 9-inch wrist. So no worries at all if you have a larger wrist of in excess of 8 inches. Plenty of links in the oyster style bracelet, plenty of micro adjustment, one full link as I've demonstrated, so it's good. So proportions of this piece are outstanding. 40mm head of the piece is perfectly balanced by the 20 to 16.5mm taper, and as I've detailed, they've added some more meat to the links at the clasp to make it more of a slight taper from 20 down to 16.5 rather than 20 to 16, for example. Beautiful luster to the oyster style links in the bracelet. The light catcher case is my favourite aspect. I love the large mirror polished bevels and also the curved undercuts of the case, which is also mirror polished. Now look how well it wraps around the wrist. This does not sit on top of your wrist like a slab of 316L grade stainless steel. The light catcher case wraps around the wrist. It's completely curved. Nice large undercuts, so snug gap. The tips of the lugs do not have large gaps, and although this uses male end links rather than female pivoted end links, you can see the end of the bracelet pulls very snug to the wrist due to the curved profile of the light catcher case and the curved profile to the end links. So the profiling of the lugs and the male end links is done very well. Now, above all else, what I like about this piece is the thickness. This is only 11.6, and as I've detailed, often with an SW200-1 piece that is 300 meters water resistant, they are 13mm plus. This has a flat sapphire crystal, but it still provides 300 meters of hermetic seal. The exhibition case back adds some thickness, but it still provides 300 meters. But even though it's 300 meters, not 200 meters water resistance, we're looking at 11.6. Just look how thin and low profile the flanks to the light catcher case are. We're not looking at tall slab-sided flanks. Nice, slender undercuts, and the curved profile of the flanks is just gorgeous. Now the colour tone is very good. The colour tone match of the pool blue dial perfectly matches the ceramic bezel inserts, and also the date wheel. If you look at the date wheel, you can see the blue tone of it perfectly matches the dial. So they've got the colour tone match well. The ceramic, the dial and the date wheel all match. The pool blue is very aesthetically pleasing. So good looking piece, feel good factor is good, comfort level is good. Now the thing to note is it is a hefty piece, because it's 40mm with all the links, and it is a very long bracelet. It's 158 grams, but of course, if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, you're going to be removing 5 to 6 links. Even with a 7 to 8 inch wrist, you're going to be removing 3 to 4 links. That will reduce the heft down to below 150 grams, which, as I often refer to in my previous reviews, for a 40mm head of the piece on a bracelet, 150 grams or less is the sweet spot. That gives you good comfort for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. This does not feel top heavy. The bracelet perfectly balances the head of the piece, and the clasp is also correctly proportioned. As I've detailed, it's a micro adjustment clasp. They're often very bulky when they have a ratcheting mechanism or a glide lock style mechanism. This doesn't sit too proud on the wrist. It curves around the wrist. It's long enough to give one full link of adjustment, but even with a smaller wrist, if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, it's not going to be too long and have too much overhang on the wrist. So this will fit you regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist respectively. The curved profile of it and the length and the width are correctly proportioned, and it's not too thick and bulky. Same applies to the head. Now, this is also available in a 42mm in the pool blue version you're looking at. So that's something to bear in mind, because if you feel that it doesn't have enough wrist presence, they also make the same colour, the pool blue version of the C60 in a 42. But I think the 40mm head of the piece we're looking at is the sweet spot. It will fit you if you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist. On my 8 inch wrist, there's enough wrist presence and there's enough heft for it to feel quality at 158 grams, but it's not too large. It has a very good lug-to-lug measurement. That's something I really like. I often refer to 48mm as being the sweet spot, the perfect lug-to-lug measurement, regardless of whether you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist or a 7 to 8 inch wrist. This has a 47.5, so it's just a fraction below the sweet spot of 48, just half a millimetre short of the sweet spot. At 47.5, it gives a sublime fit. Comfort level's good, feel good factor is good, and due to the curved profile of it, the 47.5 will fit 6 to 7 inch wrists and 7 to 8. Lovely curved profile. Beautiful luster to the bracelet, the clasp, and the light catcher case. Very low profile piece, 11.6, and they've made the correct decision by not using a double dome sapphire crystal or a boxed top hat crystal, because that would make it 2mm thicker. It wouldn't be 11.6, it would be 13.6, and therefore not slip underneath the shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So needless to say, it's 11.6. This is easily going to slip underneath shirt cuffs if you wear business shirts. It's one of the lowest profile SW200-1 pieces at 300 meters I have reviewed. 11.6 is incredibly low profile. And I like the inner ring that goes around inside the bezel and around the sapphire crystal. Brushed satin finish with a minute 6, but it catches the light, and also the edge of the sapphire crystal has a bevel on it, and when you tilt the piece at an oblique angle, see the way it catches the light? Just absolutely gorgeous. So fantastic looking piece. Comfort is exceptional, feel good factor is exceptional, and the proportions are perfect. Right, so let's do a Lume test, and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. So this uses X1 BL C1 Super Lume Nova, which makes a refreshing change from using C3 or BGW9, which are the industry standards. And at this price point, €1,165 in the mid-tier, one would expect C3 or BGW9 respectively. So they deserve credit, because X1 is very potent Super Lume Nova. They've mixed X1 with BL and C1, and we'll see how it performs. Now X1 has a very bright white exciter. Now as you can see, it has not disappointed. This has actually exceeded my expectations. So similar blue tone to BGW9, but the use of X1 as the exciter in the X1 BL C1 Super Lume Nova means it glows brighter. It has a whiter tone than BGW9. BGW9 has a darker blue tone to it. The exciter isn't as bright. X1 is whiter, it's purer. So you can see the potency of the X1 mixed in with the BL C1 Super Lume Nova. Stellar performance. This is clearly 5 to 6 layers on the ceramic bezel insert, the applied indices, and the arrow handsets. And even the arrowhead tip of the sweeping Trident second hand is fully lumed with 5 to 6 layers. You can clearly see the tip of the arrowhead on the second hand sweeping around the dial at the 4 Hz sweep. Good symmetry to the dial. I like that they've cited the date complication at 6 rather than 3 because we've got that perfect symmetry. Double applied indices at 12 o'clock means we can quickly orientate the dial. You can immediately tell where 12 o'clock is due to the double indices at 12 and the other indices at the hours are singular. Now they've also added a small index beneath the date complication, so perfect symmetry. The handset is correctly proportioned, nice large area, nice large plot for the X1 BL C1 superluminova to be applied. The colour tone match is perfect. It doesn't look lighter or darker on the bezel, the dial or the handset. We've got the same blue tone of Lume on all three places, the bezel, the dial and the hands. Now as you can see, it's continuing to glow incredibly brightly due to the exciter in the X1, giving it stellar performance, and it's not going to fade whatsoever. I would actually say this is better performance than BGW9 due to the X1 exciter. It really does add extra potency to it. It's slightly whiter than BGW9, but the exciter is glowing brighter as a result, and it's not going to fade whatsoever. This is what you're looking at here, 5 to 6 layers, which is fantastic performance, and they haven't cut any corners. If you look at the ceramic bezel insert, they've also done a very good job of inlaying the Arabic numerals and also the triangle at 12 o'clock because they're high definition, they're nice and crisp, the font isn't too thick and blurry, you can clearly read the Arabic numerals on the ceramic bezel inserts, the definition is there. They've done a good job engraving the ceramic, and then they've done a very good job of inlaying it with 5 to 6 layers. So fantastic performance, they couldn't improve upon it. Right, so let's discuss the movement used, which is my favourite aspect of the piece. So, you'll all be familiar with the Sellita SW200-1 automatic. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse Swiss calibre. So, the SW200-1 is a clone of the ETA 2824-2, so the architecture of both movements is the same. The only discernible difference is the SW200-1 has an additional joule added. It has 26 joules. The ETA 2824-2 respectively has 25 joules. So there's one additional joule, but the rest of the movement is the same. The architecture is the same. Christopher Ward have added the Collie McCone rotor with the twin flag emblem repeated to add some interest to the sterile movement. It has 26 joules and it runs at 28,800 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 4 Hz. It has hand winding and hacking, which use for complications, and also a quick set date complication, which, as I've demonstrated, works very well. 38-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable. The stated accuracy is plus or minus 20 seconds per day, so rather wide accuracy range. However, I'm pleased to report that Christopher Ward are doing an excellent job of regulating the SW200-1s they're using in the C60. This one is running consistently at plus 5 seconds per day, which is excellent accuracy. Plus 5 is actually within chronometer grade accuracy of minus 4 to plus 6 per day, and certainly plus 5 is well within the stated accuracy of plus or minus 20. So they're clearly regulating the SW200-1 in 5 positions to get it to chronometer grade. They state the accuracy as plus or minus 20, which is acceptable for the standard grade of SW200-1, but in reality they're coming out as plus 5, for example, and if you get an SW200-1 regulated to plus or minus 5, that is chronometer grade or top grade accuracy. It's excellent. So correct choice of movement at this price point. Build quality, quality control, materials, everything about it is good. The hand winding feels smooth. The hacking works very well. The quick set date complication works well, and it's bi-directional winding. The rotor can rotate clockwise or anti-clockwise, and it still has the same winding effect. So I think at this price point in the mid-tier, €1,165, the SW200-1 is the right choice. I like that they've decorated the rotor with Christopher Ward, and also the Collie McCone finish adds some interest when looking at it through the exhibition case back. No negatives to it whatsoever. It's a very reliable, robust, accurate movement. So lastly, I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch meets 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So we're looking at a mid-tier piece. The price point is €1,165. It does face some stiff competition in the mid-tier at that price point. It is a very competitive price point. I'm going to declare it excellent quality, and I'm going to declare the value as good. Now, I'm not going to say excellent despite the strong specification, because there is some stiff competition from other Swiss mid-tier brands at this price point. Similar specification, builds quality, quality control. So the C60 Trident Pro 300 is an excellent piece, but the value is good, it's not excellent. I think that in order to make it more competitive, Christopher Ward could drop the price slightly, and that would therefore upgrade it from being good value to excellent, but the quality is excellent. Bezel execution 10 out of 10, silky smooth screw down crown 10 out of 10, the AR coating works very well, and the Lume is exceptional. X1 BLC1 is top grade Super Luminova. They deserve credit for the refinements of using screw pins rather than the push pins they used to use, and the micro adjustment clasp is exceptional, very good. So very satisfying piece. I'm going to highly recommend it to you for consideration. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Christopher Ward C60 Trident Pro 300 Pool Blue version. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you for watching.